Colby Covington sat down with Dennis from Submission Radio talking about Belal Muhammad's victory over Leon Edwards, and it was filled with so many contradictions, and you wouldn't really expect anything else from Covington, but it was, again, just pretty hilarious how out of touch he was and the delusions he showed throughout the interview, which I'm going to break down in this video. And there is one good thing, potentially, I should say, that came from him at the end of the interview where he talked about coming back before the end of the year and fighting a top contender. I mean, wouldn't that be something? But it's just filled with so many contradictions before that, and it starts immediately here where he's asked about his thoughts on the fight.
Who won the fight?
Well, we've got a new champion, yeah.
I can tell you who lost, and that's the fans, man. I feel bad for the fans that they got robbed of some entertainment and, the highest level fight of two bums.
Yeah, it was dull. I mentioned that in my post-fight video, but Colby Covington's performance against Leon Edwards was equally boring and a far worse effort than Belal Muhammad gave, because Belal gave it his all, whereas Colby Covington, he gave up before the fight even started. So that's the first ridiculous thing Covington says.
What did you think when you saw Leon's performance?
To be honest, full transparency, I didn't watch the fight, man. I'm out in Nashville. I came out here for the Bitcoin conference because, the greatest president in history, Donald Trump, was out here speaking. So, I had to make sure that my president, Donald Trump, was safe. He's been under a lot of siege and attack lately.
So he starts talking about Donald Trump again, and regardless of how much of a fan you are of any politician, the extent that Covington goes to talk about Donald Trump out of nowhere, and also the way he repeats himself and just goes on and on and on about how great he is, etc., there's no defense for this. Colby Covington has sold out his dignity. He has no self-respect whatsoever because it just keeps going back to how great of a person Donald Trump is. But again, Colby Covington has no shame whatsoever, and this next line that comes out of his mouth is pretty hilarious.
Wanted to make sure that, he had someone that was going to watch his six and really watch his backside. So, I've been...
I don't think Colby Covington realized just how ridiculous those words were coming out of his mouth, talking about Donald Trump. I mean, it's been a joke for several years now, but particularly the last 7 or 8 months. I'm sure Colby Covington really would like to watch Donald Trump's six and be on his backside. I mean, absolutely hilarious from Colby Covington. And the fact that he said that with so much intensity, you saw his eyes flare up when he said, watch his six. You almost wanted to think to yourself, I hope Colby Covington isn't alluding to any private activities here. Anyway, let's move on.
In Nashville, just enjoying time and learning more about Bitcoin, because I do believe that's our future currency, and I want to see it go to the moon.
I want to see a Colby Covington coin, man. I'll buy into that. Let me ask you.
Come on, Dennis. I know you get on well with Colby Covington, and look, I like Submission Radio, okay? I don't agree with everything they say, but nonetheless, I enjoy a good interview here and there, and I think when it comes to MMA media, they are much, much better than most of what we have. But come on, enough with the bias already. That was just a bit embarrassing.
Were you surprised yourself when you saw that Belal beat Leon?
Not really, just because, I know that Leon made so much money in the last fight with me that, I don't think he's hungry anymore. I think he's lost his motivation, and, he has nothing more to fight for. What is he fighting for? He's already achieved, everything that he set out to do. He's reached the top of the mountain. So, he's not a type of guy that's going to get knocked down and get back up and fight harder. He's a quitter. He's shown it in the past. And
Colby Covington quit before he even started his fight with Leon Edwards, to where it wasn't even a fight. So Covington calling somebody else a quitter is just, again, completely ridiculous. But Covington is so delusional, he doesn't even realize that he's describing himself.
For the fact that Belal is the champion, I know you and him have had a bit of a rivalry, a bit of a back and forth, a new champion, a new feud for you to sort of get into for the title. What's your reaction now that that sort of happened and it's here now?
The guy's a fucking pussy. The only time that Bill Lau, the racist juice monkey, wanted to fight me was when I already had a title fight signed, sealed, and delivered. That's the only time he wanted to fight me. Otherwise, he's never said my name because he knows he's a little bitch and he knows what I would do to him. He's a pussy.
That is a complete joke. Belal wanted to fight Colby Covington at the start of last year, before Covington was given a title shot against Edwards. back when Colby Covington was hiding from the world, Belal called him out. And I mentioned that in my video talking about how Covington ruined his image and popularity with the fans and turned into a joke. Covington is just telling lie after lie after lie, completely ridiculous.
His man card, and we know he's still a virgin, so it's not like anybody's gonna fuck him because he's just disgusting. I mean, look at his teeth, look at that dildo on his face. He's just a disgusting excuse of a human. So, I'd love to fight him. I hope that fight happens.
Regardless of whether you are a fan of Covington and you dislike Belal or vice versa, you cannot deny that Belal Muhammad showed to be more of a man in his last fight against Leon Edwards than Colby Covington did against Leon Edwards, because Colby Covington turned in one of the worst performances I have ever seen by a country mile. It was embarrassing. So that's one thing. Secondly, him talking about Belal Muhammad's looks. At what point do you look at these kind of insults and say, it's weird that one man is talking about another man's looks so constantly? It's embarrassing to me. I mean, Colby Covington, I don't give a crap who is better looking. He put so much effort into looking like a model. I talked about in my video again about him ruining his popularity with the fans, how he's wearing so much makeup to where he almost looks like he's trying to look like a model so that he can go on the show with Adam Sosnick with all these girls. It's ridiculous from Covington. But any fans who think differently to me, let me know down below. As I've said before, I always love to hear other people's opinions.
How do you think a fight between you and Belal plays out? How does it look?
I think it looks like how Vicente looked against him the first time they fought when he KO'd him. He put him out cold. He's not going to take me down. He's not going to be able to put a wrestling game plan on me. His striking sucks. I mean, look, he couldn't even finish Gilbert Burns when Gilbert was on one arm and Gilbert was on a short camp because he just fought 3 weeks before that.
I will say that when Belal called Colby Covington out last year, again, before Colby was going to fight Leon Edwards, back when he was hiding from the world, that partly because of the difference in striking, how Colby's hands looked really good against Jorge, I would have picked Colby to beat Belal, but that has changed a little bit given their last two performances. But yeah, for Colby to talk about one man striking, he beat a guy on the feet who Colby was scared of against Leon Edwards. I mean, he fought like he was scared. Maybe he wasn't completely scared, but that's the way he fought. So again, just more hypocrisy from Colby.
2 quick turnarounds because his sleazeball manager, Ali, talked him into and convinced him into, oh, this is a title eliminator, when it was never a title eliminator. I was obviously already fighting for the title and guaranteed the next title shot. So that fight never made sense. I feel bad for Gilbert that his, shitty-ass manager, double-dipped on him and Bill. That he took paychecks from both of them.
You can talk about how it was a bad idea for Gilbert Burns to fight that many times and be that active. Gilbert Burns proved to be an absolute stud. Whereas Colby Covington, as I have, again, broken down in that video, check it out, it's from about 3 weeks ago, has just proven to be not only a wuss and a sissy and an actor, but a Karen. And it's embarrassing.
He's got nothing for me. It'd be an easy fight, and, he's going to look to duck and pick and choose all the easiest fights he can, but
Belal Muhammad has actually said he is prepared to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, who, in my opinion, is the clear-cut number one contender. Shavkat is a guy who Colby has always avoided to even talk about. He's always diverted the conversation to somewhere else when his name is brought up, because he wants nothing to do with Shavkat Rakhmonov. So, not only has Belal proven to be a better man inside the cage when fighting Leon Edwards, but he's proven to be more of a man afterwards. Colby, by comparison, has always called out old men, washed up welterweights, or blown up lightweights. So it's absolutely pathetic from him.
This sport's about pleasing the fans, and that's what I love to do best. So, I'm going to get on the phone with the UFC, see what I need to do to get back that title.
The same fans that booed you because of your pathetic performance against Leon Edwards.
I've never really heard you speak about Shavkat before. What do you actually think of him as a fighter and this matchup between you and him down the track if he is champion?
I don't think anything special is shit rat. I think that, the way he fights, he fights very, very tall, very high up, chin up in the air. He almost got knocked out by, the busboy from out back that's serving blooming onions, Jeff Neal. So, he got exposed that fight. And then, he fought number 9 Wonder Boy's last fight. I don't know how that warrants a title shot, but, I don't know. He's finished a lot of nobodies.
Again, Colby talks about how Shavkat doesn't deserve a title shot because he just fought number 9 in Stephen Thompson, even though guys like Usman, guys like Colby have never wanted to call him out. It's just absolutely ridiculous from Colby. You cannot make this up. And secondly, this is the first time I've heard him talk about even the possibility of fighting Shavkat. And, credit to Dennis for asking him that. I think Colby deep down doesn't want to do it, because you guys let me know what you think, but looking at Colby's eyes and the tone of his voice, I think he is pretending to be confident, but deep down, he doesn't want to go anywhere near Shavkat Rakhmonov because he has done everything he can to avoid mentioning his name up until now, and he's only mentioning his name because there's a chance he could be champion soon.
Then I'm coming back healthy. I'm going to shock the world, and Colby will be champion.
When was the last time you had this kind of chip on your shoulder, man? Do you remember? Just quickly, what has the UFC said to you, man? And how are you going with your recovery? What does the timeline look like right now for you?
Yeah, so the timeline looks like, 100% I'm fighting before year's end. I'm about fully healthy right now. The foot's feeling good. Now it's just about, rehabbing and just making sure I get back to my base level of conditioning and, get my sparring back on track, get all my MMA training back on track. And, I'm ready to fight. So, I'm going to get on the call with UFC very soon.
Talking about the part that is potentially a positive sign for Colby Covington, saying that he may be back at the end of the year or before the end of the year and fight somebody who is actually coming off wins. Earlier in the video, which I left out just to try and keep this to a certain time limit, you guys can go and listen to the interview yourselves. He talks about how he's probably never going to fight Dustin Poirier, and to me that's a good thing because Poirier was just a lightweight, not a ranked contender at welterweight, so it just didn't make sense in terms of Colby being ranked so high in the welterweight division. And again, that to me is a good thing. Therefore, him mentioning the likes of Shavkat Rakhmonov only because Dennis asks him about it, but still nonetheless he doesn't brush it off like he has done every other time. And I feel that eventually Ian Gary's name will get brought up, and that means Colby will have to fight these guys, because here's the thing. Stylistically, Belal is a better fight for him. I'm not saying I would pick Colby to win, but stylistically, I think Belal is a better fight for him than both Usman and Leon Edwards. So, regardless of Colby's lack of motivation, if there is a chance of Colby fighting to the best of his ability and going out there and being prepared to go out on his shield, like he was against Usman both times, then this could be it. I'm not holding my breath, but I'm just putting that possibility out there. So the chances are there. I won't say they're good, but you never know. And listen, I hope Colby does come back. But if he does, I don't want to see any of this pity-patter nonsense he showed against Edwards. I want to see the old Colby Covington who, whether you love him or not, did go out there and give it his all. So those are my thoughts on Colby Covington's embarrassing interview with Submission Radio, with one potential good sign, and we will keep an eye on it. Let me know what you guys thought down below of the interview and my comments on Colby. Let me know, guys. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Catch you later.